Hi, this is Elsa, and today I am interviewing someone who has something incredibly exciting. And in fact, it's something that's going to be asking everyone to do something if you volunteer to do it. The person, Harry Richardson. And I got an email from him a few weeks ago, and it said, I have something very exciting up my sleeve, or maybe not up my sleeve, but I have something very exciting. And then a few days ago, I got the very exciting project, and indeed it is exciting, and it's a two-part project. I usually start, who is this person and everything, but today what I want to focus on is this amazing project. And I will ask Harry just one thing. How did you think of it? How did you come to think of this project?
Well, I'd love to take the honours for this and the praise, but it wasn't actually my immediate thing. It came to me from other people, and two separate people. And I won't go into the details of one of them because he's quite paranoid. He gave me this stuff, but he didn't want to be identified himself, so I won't say anything much about him. But he was very deeply connected into this world, is all I'll say. The other person was it was Pastor Keith Piper, who I interviewed. You've seen the other interview where I did the interview with the Christian, who I asked whether now that was Keith,
yes,
who originally
he gave you the idea.
He came up with this, and we was a little bit rough at first, and we went through between us, and we ironed it out and took all the creases out and made it easy to, and simplified it. But yeah, so really it was, I can't take the credit for it myself, but I've sort of put together the, used what contacts and what resources I've got, and put it all together into, the declaration and the verses on the back, and then I went along and used this, as you know, on the mosque, and I'm sort of running with this at the moment. So.
Okay, right now, I know people are utterly confused. I thought you were going to give a story about, I had this idea, and then I refined it, and then I pulled it together. But instead, I know that people don't have a single clue.
Okay. So
about this thing that
a
person who's in the background and a Christian pastor came up with. So I'm going to say that you've come up with an idea to really check if a Muslim is absolutely and truly into nonviolence.
That's right.
It is truly what many people consider moderate, meaning just in terms of not dangerous.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Because that's a really serious question. So many people say, I know a nice Muslim. Okay. Now, at this point, what you will do, you'll say, okay, introduce me, or here's a piece of paper, and here's something for you to sign. Now, tell me or show me, or what is this thing about how do you vet a nice Muslim?
Okay, or any Muslim really. It doesn't tell you whether they're violent or not. What it is, we could put together...
Well, a nasty one is not going to sign.
Yeah, okay, so we've got something called the Declaration of Peaceful Intent. I don't know if you can see this, it might be back to front on the camera. And it's a renunciation of the Quran's violent commands as not applicable for today. So the problem we have with a lot of people is that people will say, oh, there's violence in the Bible, there's violence in the Quran, it doesn't really matter, it's just the same. Well, it's not actually the same, or we believed it wasn't. So what we've done is we've put together this declaration, and I'll just read it to you. So it's done a little bit like a statutory declaration or something like that. And it says, I, name of an address, understand that there are commands in the Quran which compel Muslims to kill, behead, crucify or commit unprovoked violence against non-Muslims, Jews, Christians, atheists or apostates from Islam. I fully, unequivocally, 100% reject and refuse to believe, practice or teach any of these commands. I believe that these commands from Allah are not applicable, not relevant and should not be practiced in any form in today's world by anyone. And it's signed, witnessed and dated. So a pretty straightforward document which says that I don't believe, as a Muslim, I don't believe that the commands in the Quran to kill and harm people are relevant for today. And on the back we've got a bunch of different verses from the Quran which say, I will chapter 8, verse 12, I will instill terror into the hearts of the unbelievers, smite ye above their necks and smite off all their fingertips. So there's a whole bunch of verses like that. So the declaration is to say that I as a Muslim renounce these declarations and say that they're not relevant for today.
Okay, you think that that's very, very mild? You think that 1.6 billion or almost would run out and sign?
Yeah.
We're going to be having a link to a video where this did not happen. And so this is then a vetting test, which I think is a really excellent idea. Now, it's a two-part thing, because you could say, as indeed is always brought up, there are some nasty things in the Old Testament. Christians and Jews are in the same boat as Muslims.
And they're not violent.
And so don't point your finger at the Quran.
Yeah.
So you actually have a second document, which is for Christians and Jews.
Yeah, so we put together pretty much a mirror image. We just cut and pasted it a little bit. It says the Christian Declaration of Peaceful Intent, and it's a renunciation of the Bible's violent commands as not applicable for today. So it's the same kind of thing. The question was then, if we ask Muslims to sign this, what will happen? I mean, it's all very well to say that we've got this declaration, but then you have to actually go and try it out. So we organised a meeting at a mosque, which was to do with de-radicalisation. I took the declaration along, and I pulled it out and asked. We had a Muslim who was a leading Muslim in the mosque. He's actually a leading Muslim in our state of Queensland. He's on the Queensland government's payroll. He's the spokesperson for the Islamic Society. Really, he's a PR man for Islam. And so you expect this. He wears a suit. He has a beard, but he's well trimmed, and he's very, very nice sort of a bloke, very gentle, and talks very well. So I pulled out the declaration and asked him to sign it. And so I read it out to him very clearly and asked him to sign it. And what happened then was he looked me in the eye and said, "Do you want me to renounce the Quran? Do you want to renounce my religion just because you've misinterpreted it?" So I explained to him on several occasions that no, we haven't misinterpreted it. We're asking you to sign a document to say that you don't believe in the violence in the Quran, that you're not going to live by this today. But he refused to sign it, as we believed that he would do. One of the things, some of the people who've seen this have said, "Oh, no, they'll just use taqiyya and they'll sign it, and that's okay. So, and it's not going to work." Well, it did work, because taqiyya only goes so far. They can't use that word. They can't use that concept to actually deny Allah. They can't do that. They can obfuscate and skirt around issues and things like that, but they can't sign this document to say that I deny Allah. That the commands from Allah are not applicable. They cannot put their name to that. If they do, they will become apostates, and they'll be liable to be killed. And that was another thing that he actually said to me. He said to me, "If I sign this, there's Muslims out there who will kill me." He said that straightforward. So that was quite revealing. So,
And then the second part, which will not surprise people, is when you went to the Christian, the one who'd in fact thought up this idea, and asked him if he would sign the equivalent on the Christian Jewish side, you got a very different response.
Yeah, well, I've taped both of these and put them on YouTube so people can see the response. I mean, obviously he just said, "Why wouldn't I sign it? Of course I'll sign it." And I asked him a little bit about the violence in the Bible, and why. I asked if he feel that Christians might kill him, and not surprisingly, he didn't think that Christians were going to kill him for signing this document. One of the confusions, we have this confusion that people, and I noticed it really when I was researching. I was looking up the violent commands in the Bible, so I was Googling violent commands in the Bible, and I came across articles by people, and they're saying, "Oh, we look through the Bible, and there's just as many violent verses in the Bible as there are in the Quran, or comparatively, there's a lot of violence in the Bible." And so, obviously, the two documents, there's not much difference between the Bible and the Quran, because they've both got roughly the same amount of violence in it. Now, you could take a book that is a history of World War II, for instance, and on just about every page you would find violence. But that's very different from a book which actually tells people to go out and commit violence. There's a real difference there, which you wouldn't think was too hard for people to understand, but people are taken in by this idea that, oh, there's violence in one book, there's violence in the other. Just the fact that there's violence in a book, there's a lot of difference between a book which tells you about someone went out and killed someone and another book which says you should go out and kill someone. There's a world of difference.
I know, Star Wars.
Oh, exactly. There's lots
Star Wars.
There's lots
Imagine the old Star Wars series. My God, there's more violence in Star Wars than there is in the Old Testament and the Quran together.
That's right. So it's a very different concept, but the people are obviously being very deceptive when they come up with these things, and unfortunately, a lot of people have fallen for it. And our challenge has been, how do we show people the difference? And I think that this declaration is something that does just that. So it's a really good tool, or a weapon, if you like, to separate the wheat from the chaff and find out who's genuine and who's not. So yeah. Now the next, I mean, we found one guy who wouldn't sign it. Now that in itself is just one person. So the challenge now is to find as many people as we can and present this to them, hopefully on camera.
I want to step in.
Please.
For that, I want to get involved, and therefore I'm going to tell all my people, please. So many people know one or more nice Muslims. Most people have these wonderful little smartphones, and you could film you're going to your nice Muslim friends. Ideally, you will not just take random Muslims. The random Muslims are great. But if you know an imam, or you know somebody who goes to interfaith, I think that's brilliant. So ideally, you will film the encounter. If not, you will have the encounter, and then you can film yourself describing it. But that isn't as good as if we actually get it. Likewise, most people know at least occasional Christian or Jew. Could you please go and find a few Christians and Jews who pop the document on them.
Yeah.
Plus, there are a whole bunch of people who are atheists, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Taoists, Yazidis, etc. If you are in any of these religions, we'll just take the sample and change it for that religion. And for some religions, like the Jain, you're not going to be able to find any violent passages you have to renounce, because their two core things are compassion and nonviolence. Therefore, if they found any violence, they would have gotten rid of it long ago. Yeah. So it'll be like every Jain will sign that they renounce all violence. Yeah. And what I'd like to invite people to do is get those and send them in. And you'll have an email address to send everything to, and we'll take it from there. And if you can send links to where you posted it on YouTube, etc. Yeah. So that's the adventure, and we will see what happens next. Isn't that the way it goes in adventure stories?
Yeah, will they all live happily ever after? Yeah, I think that, this is...
No, in adventure stories, they're more adventures. The happily ever after, I think those are romances, and this is not quite a romance. This is more like an adventure story, a cliffhanger, page turner. So I'm interested in what happens next.
Right. So so if people send them in, we can post them up, and we have a whole string of these on a YouTube channel or whatever of people not signing them. Where we can go from there, once this becomes accepted, because at the moment I suppose it's a bit like when the smartphones first came in, that people were still using the old Nokias till they realised how good the new ones were. It's going to take a little while for people to realise, but as this gathers steam, people can start using this for MPs. We're having Muslims swearing in on the Quran into a parliament in a Western country. Well, will they sign the declaration? People want a job as a baggage handler in the airport. Yeah, exactly.
If you have anybody who's Muslim, who's in any position, a police officer, airport employee, member of parliament, mayor of London, and this is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward, as I said, to the next installment.
Yeah. The other people, we have quite a few people chasing people down on mosques. There's always this idea of mosques being built. So if you're involved in a Stop the Mosque kind of a project, and you're meeting with council and meeting with Islamic leaders, ask them, can you videotape the meeting and pull out the declaration and say, look, you know, we're happy for the mosque to go ahead if these guys will sign this declaration.
I think we have to get this to that British person, Gavin Bobby, who is known as a mosque buster.
There's so many applications, and I think, like with the smartphone when they first came out, no one knew what we were going to be using them for in the future. So this is just, it's something that people can use their own imagination and come up with new ways to use it.
Okay, great. So thank you very much for coming on and presenting your idea.
Okay, thank you, Elsa.
Again, I'm just delighted. And
we'll put there's a download link for the declaration in the. I'll put it on my YouTube channel.
And I will also invite people to modify it for different religions, and we'll see what we get all around. Like, you know, score is 100 out of 100 of this religion who sign, and we'll see about the other religions.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting scorecard there. It might be a little. So
yeah, some might have higher marks than others.
Yeah, I think so. Well, we'll find out. Okay, thank you, Elsa, so much.
Great.
Take care. See you then. Bye bye.
You're welcome. Bye bye.